Very good. So let's wait for the rest to join this main session. Okay, so we can start discussing what did you notice here in the dialogue? What did you notice that the teacher did? Okay, what techniques or how was the explanation done with the students? Okay, we have 5 seconds. Very good. All right. So in this case, a volunteer that would like to participate, what did you share with your team? What did you notice? Okay. What did you discuss? Yes.
Something that I noticed, I was telling Natalia that this teacher said like a context in a way, like where you can use this rule. This person said to the cinema. So this teacher gave the students like a place and a context where you can use it.
Yeah.
Very good. Exactly. Here we can see a context. Something else that you discussed, Karime, in your team?
Yeah, but the other idea was Natalia's idea.
Okay.
I said that I think the first part, like where she or he has said like, the past of the auxiliary, blah 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 blah, and the last part with the timeline, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, I don't know the specific level of students, but I think if they are not that advanced, I think that would be really hard. And I mean, that's not something you could use. I mean, whenever you are making a sentence, you are not thinking, is the auxiliary plus the no sé qué, no sé qué. I mean, you're not thinking of that. So I think that I would rather just keep up with the in the middle part, like where he or she gave the an example, and from then on to like explain in more detail. But I will not do it like in the like the first and the last part of the dialogue.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you, Natalia. Okay. What about the rest? Another team that would like to share ideas about this explanation?
I was thinking, similar to Natalia, that he was doing like extra words, super fancy, and it made it difficult for students to understand. For example, he said the past of auxiliary have plus the past participle instead of saying have and past participle.
Okay. Exactly. Here we have some more information, right? More words to put there in the explanation.
Another thing that I noticed is that he tries to speak. He tries really hard to speak up on examples, but I don't think it's the best way. I think he or she will use like activities or things like that to see if they really comprehend. Because with only like questioning and telling a story is not enough.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jesus. Another opinion?
Yes.
Selena, Eugenio?
No, go.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I was saying to Leslie that I think that the teacher, I don't know, I think she's talking too much, and I think it's too much explanation, and I don't really think that all students know what they ask, what the teacher asks.
Okay, so a lot of teacher talking time?
Yeah, and then Leslie said another very interesting thing, but yeah.
Okay, very good. I don't know if Leslie wants to add something, or Eugenio, you like to? Yes?
What did I say?
About like everything all over the place.
Yeah. I mentioned that I thought because the teacher mentioned examples from the very beginning, and that's good. But I think it would be better if it's more organized, like present the structure and then what it's used for, and then provide examples.
Okay, very good.
I think it's a little bit mixed. I don't know.
More sense, you say, Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you. Eugenio, would you like to add something?
Yes. I was wondering if the teacher is using the board, for example, at the beginning that he or she is explaining the form. So I don't know if the teacher is only speaking. So it will be better if the teacher use the board as a visual example.
Mm-hmm.
And also the teacher could have done a communicative task. So the teacher talking time it will be reduced.
Exactly. Thank you, Eugenio. Very good. And I can answer you this question that you have. I don't think that the teacher used the board while he was explaining at the beginning. I think he or she used the board when this person drew the timeline, right? The illustration. But first, I think it just was just speaking, the teacher talking time. Right, very good, very interesting ideas, very interesting perspective of how you saw this explanation. As you can see here in parentheses, we have some techniques that the teacher used. We have the cueing. Mhm. We have that here the teacher actually explained the form of the rule. Okay, here he included examples. And also another interesting is that he used the CCQ, checking questions. So what's the perfect, what's the past perfect of they go? And the students answered, they had gone. Yes, it's a lot of information here. Yes, I agree with you that maybe if the order was quite different, maybe by starting with the use and then maybe explaining the structure or maybe avoiding, it's going to depend according to you and according to what students you have in your classroom, right? And also here, the use of the illustration, that is the timeline. Some teachers might use the timeline, right? Maybe if you don't want to use the timeline, you can put in your presentation visuals, as Eugenio mentioned, okay? Examples of some of you also mentioned. Uh, Giving them the context, of course, here the context, very interesting. Karime, you mentioned, here it was the cinema. You can create that one, you can create another one, but involving your students into the explanation. Here, the students' talking time and the interaction with the student was less, right? As you can see, not a lot. Just here by the checking question, just the students mentioned they had gone and that's it. And another was before. But the interaction was, it was lack of interaction between the teacher and student, right? We need to hear, with this example, this quite old, as this theory is old, and some teachers used to explain this way. It means that just giving the information and the interaction with the student was not high. So how can you include the student into the explanation? How can you involve your students in order for the students to also ask the questions? Maybe the students can say that some examples, okay, asking the students what did they do according to the structure, okay, involving them. If we talk about ECRIF, this information will go to the encounter stage, okay, because the encounter is to give them the information, the new information, the structure. Okay, what happens after the encounter? They clarify, and students are going to work with the information you have said before. Also, what I always tell you is that in the encounter, you can put an activity there, maybe a brief activity, okay, after the explanation. It could be any activity that you want to, but also you have the clarify, and the clarify is to, again, to clarify the information, okay? As you can see, the ECRIF, that's why it's very useful for beginner levels, for advanced, intermediate levels, because it is a very slow process, but the process is going to be useful for the student, because the students are going to process the whole information that you have said, okay? Very interesting. Thank you for your perspectives. Okay, let's continue. And we need to visualize students as it was a bridge, okay? here we have the guided practice. Maybe some of you, if you are teaching right now, some of you maybe are including the guided practice into your lessons. Here, for example, we have that it depends on the teacher how that teacher presents the new grammar structure. And in the other hand, how the students are going to apply the new structure into maybe a communicative activity, okay, because they need to produce it. So it is a bridge. So as you can see, it is worked with two people, right? Well, more. We have the teacher and then the students, okay? Students and the teacher are working together in order to build this bridge. And sometimes, you always mention the context as very important. I think context is a new 2020 word, right? Here, the context is important because you are there including the target structure, the grammar. When you give them the context to the student is not going to be focusing on the structure itself. The student is going to focus on the context, okay, on the environment. If you are teaching going to the supermarket and you are teaching a structure there, but it's under the water. So the student is not worrying about remembering the structure information. The student is aware of producing the language in the supermarket, okay? So we need to play with that, okay? If you want to be inductive, go ahead, okay? But students need to know that they are using that form in that context, okay? If you are better by using deductive, okay, just try to make sure that your rules or your explanation is clear, is simple, okay, is familiar with the students, is relevant, okay? So try to consider that in your lessons. And here we have some different types of role according to the teacher inside the guided practice. So for example, once that you explain the information about the structure, what is next? Well, the practice, the students need to practice. And here, the teacher, for example, if you're going to include an activity, you need to model the dialogue. You can, by starting by modeling the dialogue itself, or you can have your students to listen and repeat the dialogue before starting to work, or you can put taking one role and having students taking the other one, right, before, or you can divide students so they can practice the dialogue before and then they can start the activity, right? You already know this information. This is one technique. Another one is the ICQs, the checking that students understand the activity or the task. So before giving them the material, before telling your students to start the activity, maybe you can ask a volunteer to explain the task. Maybe the one that is always participating, you can do it. Or maybe applying the ICQs, okay, the instruction, the checking questions. Another role that the teacher does is the monitoring. Okay, so while students are working, monitoring is very helpful because the teacher checks students, the activity. It could be individually or it could be in teams. The teacher assists the student in case that students need it. The teacher is correcting the grammar mistakes or the punctuation marks. Mm-hmm. And this is very important to monitor. Why? Because there you can collect the examples of mistakes that you consider that are very common. Well, you can collect those examples and explain them at the end of the lesson, or giving them or helping them in that time. Okay, that's the most important part that we monitor. I have seen some teachers, well, before the quarantine, I observed some, and while students were practicing the activities, the teacher was just standing there on the board and that's it. No, it's important for us to monitor the students to see if they are achieving the task and not getting distracted. That's the other part. And another role is the providing feedback. The feedback or the assessment that we have seen. It's important that the teacher provides feedback on the grammar, pronunciation, the structure, and the mistakes that you have seen while you were monitoring. Okay, it's important to give them the feedback. If you see that your students are making the same mistakes during the whole lesson, well, maybe after the fluency stage, when you heard the production, maybe you can clarify the mistakes that you listen. Okay, how can you tell your students the mistake? Well, by putting there in the board, like, you know what, guys, I heard this mistake, and you can write it there and you clarify. Well, let's remember that this is not the correct one. Maybe if we use this one, it's going to be better, right? Trying to tell them the correct answer so they can clarify where was the mistake, okay? And not actually telling them, ay, Eugenio, you were making this mistake very bad. No. So we need to consider how you're going to correct the students. Very good. So I don't know if you have any questions till this topic.
No, teacher, everything's clear.
Thank you, Eugenio. What
No,
about,
miss.
no, Selena? Thank you.
No.
Okay, very good. Today I'm going to check your encounter and clarify activities, well, the stages.